Доброго дня, пані та панове. Вітаю вас в українському кризовому медіа-центрі. Зараз у нас буде виступ речника АТО, полковника Андрія Lysenko. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ukraine Crisis Media Center. We are having a press briefing by the ATO spokesperson, Colonel Andriy Lysenko.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The situation in the zone of the anti-terrorist operation remains unstable. The enemy does not adhere to the regime of silence, using small firearms, mortars, grenade launchers, and armored vehicles against the anti-terrorist operation forces practically along the entire demarcation line. Also, our positions next to Avdiivka were twice shelled from the artillery that had to be pulled away according to Minsk agreements. There was also an enemy mortar fire in the vicinity of they shelled from mortars the city of Krasnogorivka. The hottest situation is still in the Donetsk airport, and next to the settlement Opitne, the enemy has 6 times shelled our positions, including the use of tanks. Even today, at 1 a.m., next to Vodyane, for over half an hour, there was a combat clash between militants and Ukrainian military. The anti-terrorist operation forces have retained their positions and repelled the enemy. The intelligence says that there's an amassing of the detachments of the illegal armed forces and Russian military in the vicinity of towns of Stakhanov, Alchevsk, and Pervomaisk. The command of the bandit formations conducts military training of their units with the direct participation of Russian instructors. The enemy also conducts active air reconnaissance. Over the last 24 hours, the flight of 9 enemy drones was detected. Over the last 24 hours, there were no killed among the Ukrainian military servicemen. 3 were wounded. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry rejects the information disseminated by the Russian Ministry for Foreign Affairs, who said that Azov battalion uses howitzers D-30 next to the village of Shirokine, adjacent to Mariupol. At the same moment, the real report by the Reuters agency clearly says that the video shooting was taking place at the planned training of Ukrainian units next to the village of Ozruf, 45 kilometers to the west of Mariupol. And the pulling out of Ukrainian howitzers D-30 from Shirokine was done on the 7th of March under the control of the Special Monitoring Mission of OSCE. And now another story about a Ukrainian officer who is no longer with us. Dmytro Lobutkin was a Ukrainian military journalist, a 20-year-old officer, lieutenant captain. He died during the combat action in Debaltsevo. The day before yesterday, his body was identified in the morgue of the city of Dnipropetrovsk. He hailed from Ternopil region. He was a well-meaning and insistent person, a real patriot. He served in Sevastopol as a reporter in the TV radio company Breeze. After the Russian occupation of Crimea, he did not betray his oath and the people of Ukraine and went to Odessa together with his family. Regrettably, his tour of duty to the east of Ukraine as a military correspondent appeared to be the last for him. He is being survived by his wife and daughter. Peaceful residents of Donbass are dying on the occupied territories. On the 20th of March in Popasna district, as a result of an explosion, a driver of a car was died, and he tried to cross the demarcation line, avoiding road checkpoints. Also, almost a week ago, next to the village Chervony Partizan, Yasinuvata district, Donetsk region, another car also exploded on a explosive device. As a result, a 23-year-old woman and her 3-year-old son died because they were wounded by fragments of the mine. We call upon the citizens to cross the contact line only through the transportation corridors that's been defined and agreed. Moving by all other routes can be dangerous. Yesterday in the city of Volnovakha, in the street, a serviceman of the Ukraine Security Service was killed. The criminals have retained his submachine gun and ran away. Some of them are already detained, apart from the perpetrator of the crime. The Ukrainian special services continue to detain subversive agents and abettors of the enemy. The counterintelligence of the Security Service of Ukraine has detained a military serviceman who served on the contract and who was an informer of the militants. He hails from the city of Novozovsk, and he was recruited by a member of the DNR bandit formation nicknamed Zmi. He was collecting news information about the anti-terrorist operation zone in the vicinity of Shirokino, and he was passing the information to the enemy about the system of protection of administrative buildings and so on. Also, the Security Service of Ukraine detained a subversive group of enemy in the city of Privilya, Luhansk region. They plan to explode the city leisure house and a school. 10 mortar mines were confiscated from them. And also the Security Service has liquidated the informers network of militants in Donetsk region. The group was composed of 3 people. They were active in different districts of the region, and they regularly passed to militants the information about the location, deployment of the anti-terrorist operation forces, and the activity of the bodies of the Ukrainian power authorities. Besides, in Krasnohorivka, a local resident, a corrector and director of the militants' fire was detained, who collected and handed over passed on to the militants the information on the location of armed forces in Ukraine. In Volnovakha district, 3 men who are suspected in abetting the enemy were detained. They were detained during the preventive work in the settlements of Myrnetan and Novoselivka in the Volnovakha district. Besides, the law enforcers have also got proof of criminal activity of another 5 local residents. In the naval forces of Ukraine, the training of mobilized military servicemen continues. and the training is being done by commanders of units and instructors, most of whom have taken direct part in combat action in the zone of anti-terrorist operation, and also volunteers. We should also note that the majority of those mobilized are volunteers. At the same time, demobilization continues in Ukraine, and the Odessa detachment of Coast Guards of the state Border Guard Service of Ukraine have greeted more than 100 military servicemen who were called up for service during the first wave of mobilization last year. They've got state and departmental awards, and now they're coming back to peaceful life, and the Ukrainian patriots are helping warriors who protect them. The patriots from Rivne region have sent to the anti-terrorist operation zone 2 40-ton containers, and the military have thanked everyone concerned for their help, because if they are correctly engineered, these iron containers are a real fortress against enemy mortars and Grad multiple rocket launchers. From within, the premises are equipped with wood. There are places, berths for rest, and in Kiev, the charity action Give Warmth to the Heroes has taken place, and in the nearest future, the anti-terrorist operation zone will get a car, a mobile hospital, and letters and presents. For how many times have the terrorists shelled the positions of the Ukrainian military for the last 24 hours? No such information. We're making sure. And do you think that the militants on their territory, taking into account that they are conducting training, are they preparing a offensive, and is there a direct threat to Mariupol, for instance? Well, taking into account that we continuously get the information about new arms, ammunition, fuel from the territory of the Russian Federation to the militants, coming to the militants from the territory of the Russian Federation, and taking into account that they are constantly training their mercenaries, we are prepared to repel any enemy attack or an effort of attack. And we will be counter-attacking, we will be repelling their attacks, and we won't provide them with an opportunity to penetrate the territory controlled by the Ukrainian Authority. And the monitoring of the situation, of the current situation, gives us a grounds to say that at the moment we have enough personnel and means to contain any blow from wherever it comes, including the Mariupol sector. And what's the situation in Stanitsa Luhanska? What do you exactly mean? Well, several days ago, the terrorists tried to cross the river, and the bridge was exploded. Have they become corner? Are they shelling the positions of the Ukrainian military? Are there any attacks? Yes, today there were attacks next to the territory, next to the settlement Opitne at around 1 a.m., but the attack was repelled. We didn't have casualties. The enemy did have casualties. However, we don't know how many enemy soldiers were killed, as this was taking place in the night time. Well, if there are no other questions, then thank you, the spokesperson for the anti-terrorist operation, and his next briefing will be tomorrow at 12:30. Thank you, and that's all for today.